Welcome to Eco Crop Chronicles, where we dive deep into sustainable gardening practices that truly make a difference. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey that will revolutionize how you think about waste and soil health. Get ready to witness the magic of nature in action as we build a living soil worm composter together. This fascinating world of vermicomposting will show you how tiny creatures can transform your everyday food scraps into the most valuable resource your garden could ever ask for. Living soil is the foundation of every thriving garden, yet it's something many gardeners take for granted. When we talk about living soil, we're referring to a complex ecosystem teeming with beneficial microorganisms, fungi, bacteria, and countless other organisms that work together to create the perfect environment for plant growth. This biological activity is what transforms ordinary dirt into nutrient-rich soil that can support healthy, vigorous plants while naturally suppressing diseases and pests. The conventional approach to gardening often relies heavily on synthetic fertilizers and chemical amendments, which can actually harm the delicate balance of soil life over time. These chemicals may provide quick results, but they don't build the long-term soil health that creates truly resilient gardens. Living soil worm composting offers a completely different approach, one that works with nature's own processes to create sustainable fertility that improves year after year. Vermicomposting harnesses the incredible digestive power of earthworms to break down organic matter into worm castings, often called black gold by experienced gardeners. These castings aren't just compost, they're a complete soil amendment that contains all the nutrients plants need in slow-release, plant-available forms. More importantly, worm castings are loaded with beneficial microorganisms that help establish and maintain healthy soil biology. When you add worm castings to your garden, you're not just feeding your plants, you're feeding the entire soil ecosystem. Creating your own worm composter is surprisingly straightforward, and honestly, the beauty really lies in its simplicity. You'll need just a few basic materials that you might already have around your home, or you can easily find them at any hardware store. The foundation of your system is a suitable container. Now, while you can purchase specialized worm bins, a simple plastic storage bin with a tight-fitting lid works perfectly well. Choose a bin that's approximately 18 inches wide, 24 inches long, and 8 to 12 inches deep. This size gives your worms enough surface area while maintaining the right depth for optimal composting conditions. The construction process starts with preparing your bin for proper drainage and ventilation. Using a drill with a 1/4-inch bit, go ahead and create drainage holes in the bottom of your bin, spacing them about 2 inches apart. These holes are super important because they prevent water from building up and creating anaerobic conditions that could harm your worms. Next, drill ventilation holes around the sides of the bin, roughly 2 inches from the top. These holes make sure there's enough airflow while keeping the bin from drying out completely. Bedding material forms the foundation of your worm habitat, and honestly, choosing the right materials is crucial for your success. Shredded newspaper, cardboard, coconut coir, or aged leaves all work really well as bedding. The key here is to get the right carbon-to-nitrogen ratio while creating a fluffy, well-aerated environment. Soak your chosen bedding material in water until it's thoroughly moistened but not dripping wet. The consistency should feel like a wrung-out sponge. Fill your bin about 3/4 full with this prepared bedding, creating gentle hills and valleys to provide different microenvironments for your worms. Temperature and location, play critical roles in your composter's success. Worms really thrive in temperatures between 55 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so indoor locations like basements, garages, or utility rooms are usually ideal. If you happen to live in a climate with extreme temperatures, you might need to move your bin seasonally or provide a bit of extra insulation. The location should also be easily accessible for regular feeding and maintenance, but kept out of direct sunlight, which can overheat the bin and harm your worms. Understanding what to feed your worms and honestly establishing a proper feeding routine is essential for maintaining a healthy, productive system. Worms are incredibly efficient at processing organic matter, but they do have preferences and limitations that directly impact their health and reproduction rates. Vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, tea bags, eggshells, and even small amounts of bread or pasta all make excellent worm food. These materials provide the balanced nutrition your worms need, while breaking down relatively quickly in the bin environment. Equally important is, well, knowing what to avoid feeding your worms. Meat, dairy products, oils, and fats can create odor problems and attract unwanted pests, while potentially harming your worm population. Citrus fruits and onions contain natural compounds that can irritate worm skin and should be used sparingly, or, better yet, avoided altogether. Pet waste, diseased plant materials, and anything treated with pesticides or chemicals should never be added to your worm bin. The feeding process itself requires a thoughtful approach that considers both quantity and technique. It's best to start slowly with a new system, adding small amounts of food every few days while your worm population establishes itself. A good rule of thumb is that worms can process roughly half their body weight in food per day, so, for example, a pound of worms can handle about half a pound of food scraps daily. However, it's definitely better to underfeed than overfeed, especially in the beginning. When adding food to your bin, create small pockets in the bedding and bury the scraps rather than simply placing them on top. This technique helps prevent odors, discourages fruit flies, and creates the anaerobic conditions that worms prefer for feeding. Make sure to rotate your feeding locations around the bin, which encourages the worms to move throughout their habitat and ensures even distribution of nutrients. And chopping or grinding food scraps before adding them increases surface area and speeds up decomposition, but this step isn't absolutely necessary. Moisture management is perhaps the most critical aspect of worm bin maintenance. The bedding should feel consistently moist but never soggy or dry. Too much moisture creates anaerobic conditions that can kill your worms, while too little moisture slows down their activity and reproduction. If your bin becomes too wet, just add dry bedding materials like shredded paper or cardboard. If it's too dry, mist it lightly with water or add more moisture-rich food scraps. The transformation of kitchen scraps into finished worm castings typically takes 3 to 6 months, depending on your feeding rate, worm population, and environmental conditions. Recognizing when your compost is ready for harvest is an important skill that comes with experience. Finished worm castings have a rich, dark color and an earthy smell that's never unpleasant. The original bedding materials will have largely disappeared, replaced by small, granular castings that feel slightly gritty between your fingers. So there are several harvesting methods you can use, and honestly, each one has its own set of advantages depending on your situation and what you prefer. The light method, for example, takes advantage of worms' natural aversion to bright light. What you do is simply dump the contents of your bin onto a tarp in bright sunlight or under a strong lamp, and then you just scrape away the top layer of castings. The worms will burrow deeper to escape the light, which lets you harvest more castings in layers. This whole process takes about an hour, and it usually yields very clean castings with just a few worms left behind. Another option is the side-by-side method, which works really well for continuous harvesting. This involves gradually moving all your feeding to one side of the bin. Over the course of several weeks, most of the worms will migrate to the food source, leaving finished castings on the opposite side for easy removal. This method is great because it allows you to harvest castings while still maintaining an active worm population for ongoing composting. Worm castings are, honestly, incredibly versatile, and can be used in so many different ways throughout your garden. Unlike raw compost or synthetic fertilizers, worm castings can't burn your plants, and you can apply them directly to the roots without any worry. For seedlings and transplants, you'll want to mix castings with potting soil at a ratio of about 1 part castings to 3 parts soil. This mixture provides gentle, sustained nutrition that supports healthy root development without overwhelming your young plants. In established garden beds, worm castings can be worked right into the soil around existing plants, or you can use them as a top dressing that slowly releases nutrients with each watering. The microorganisms in worm castings continue to benefit soil health long after you've applied them, improving soil structure, water retention, and even disease resistance. And a lot of gardeners like to make worm casting tea by steeping castings in water for about 1 to 2 days, creating a liquid fertilizer that you can apply directly to plant roots or use as a foliar spray. The real beauty of vermicomposting is, well, just how adaptable it is to different living situations and gardening scales. Apartment dwellers can totally maintain small worm bins in closets, under kitchen sinks, or even out on balconies, turning their food waste into valuable compost, even if they don't have any yard space at all. A compact bin is more than enough to handle food scraps from a 1- or 2-person household, while still producing plenty of castings to keep several houseplants or a small balcony garden thriving. If you happen to have a larger garden or generate more organic waste, you can always use multiple bins or larger systems to boost your production capacity. Stacking systems, flow-through bins, and even outdoor windrow composting can all incorporate worms for faster decomposition and better compost quality. And some gardeners go a step further and create permanent worm beds in their gardens, establishing populations that continuously improve soil health while processing organic matter right in place. The environmental benefits of worm composting extend far beyond your individual garden. Every pound of food scraps you divert from the waste stream represents reduced methane emissions from landfills, decreased transportation costs for waste management, and reduced demand for synthetic fertilizers in your local ecosystem. When multiplied across communities of gardeners, these individual actions create meaningful environmental impacts that benefit everyone. Worm composting also offers educational opportunities that can inspire others to adopt more sustainable practices. Children are naturally fascinated by the transformation process and learn valuable lessons about waste reduction, natural cycles, and environmental stewardship. Schools, community gardens, and neighborhood groups often find that worm composting projects bring people together while creating tangible benefits for local food production efforts. The knowledge and skills you develop through worm composting will enhance every aspect of your gardening practice. Understanding soil biology, organic matter decomposition, and nutrient cycling provides a foundation for making better decisions about plant care, soil management, and sustainable gardening practices. Many gardeners find that success with vermicomposting leads them to explore other aspects of regenerative agriculture and permaculture design. As you embark on this journey into living soil worm composting, remember that every garden is unique, and your system will evolve based on your specific needs, climate, and experience. Start small, observe carefully, and don't be afraid to experiment with different approaches as you gain confidence and understanding. The worms are remarkably forgiving and adaptable, and most problems can be easily corrected with minor adjustments to feeding, moisture, or environmental conditions. Your worm composter represents more than just a waste management system. It's a gateway to understanding and working with natural processes that have sustained life on Earth for millions of years. By creating this small ecosystem in your own space, you're participating in the larger movement towards sustainable, regenerative approaches to food production and environmental stewardship. If you found this guide helpful and want to continue learning about sustainable gardening practices that really work, make sure to subscribe to EcoCrop Chronicles and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. Share this guide with fellow gardeners who might benefit from discovering the incredible world of vermicomposting, and let us know in the comments about your own experiences with worm composting. Together, we're building a community of gardeners who understand that the best solutions often come from working with nature rather than against it.